Being cold-blooded is usually fine, as long as you live in a warmish area. But what about the chilly bloods living in the less than warm regions of the world? Some dig into the ground, some just die, and others, like the wood frog, take the cold like a champ. Find out how this frigid frog avoids becoming a permanent frogsicle in the Yukon, here in Life, Death, and Taxonomy.
Welcome back to Life, Death, and Taxonomy. It's your 30 minutes of interesting animal information. I'm Joe.
And I'm Carlos.
Thank you to Cassie for the creation of our theme song. To hear more of Cassie's music, please search Cassie Michelle on YouTube.
And thank you to Brian for the creation of this week's artwork. To check that out, you can follow us on Facebook or Twitter at LD Taxonomy, or visit us at our home on the web at ldtaxonomy.com.
And today we're talking about a chill amphibian with a cool pair of sunglasses. But more on that later.
Sunglasses?
Sort of.
Oh, I must have missed something. Maybe there's another little fact in there. But yeah, this one was a recommendation to me by my brother-in-law, Caleb. He has a friend who is I want to say he works at an Institute of Biology somewhere for the military, maybe, because he's in the Air Force. And this friend recommended to my brother-in-law this animal because it has a pretty cool ability. But which frog are we talking about?
We're talking about the wood frog.
Would you kindly talk about the frog?
Yeah.
It's Bioshock reference. Did you ever beat Bioshock?
Not the first one, but I played enough to hear that a lot.
And to know the twist?
Well, I've been spoiled to know, kind of basically what the twist is, but...
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know fully what the twist is.
13-year-old game or something like that. 14-year-old game.
Yeah.
I think eventually the spoiler makes its way to you. But yeah, we're talking about the wood frog, otherwise known as the frog and the iceberg. That's a episode 1 of Avatar reference. The flippantly frozen frog farce. And Ribbit J. Fry.
Good.
Because,
I get that one.
Get it?
I understood that reference.
Philip J. Fry was frozen for 1,000 years. Spoilers for the first 5 minutes of Futurama episode 1. But there's 2 references to the first episode of some of my favorite shows. But how about you taxonomize this wood frog for us?
I'd love to. It's in the kingdom you know, love, and are in, the kingdom Animalia. The phylum is Chordata. The class is Amphibia. Mm-hmm. The order is Anura, that's frogs.
True frogs. Don't bother me.
True.
That was so dumb.
The family is Ranidae. The genus is Lithobates. Or Lithobates.
That sounds right. The second one.
Lithobate Motel. And then the species is Sylvaticus.
Sylvaticus.
Yeah. Lithobates Sylvaticus.
Sylvatican City.
Yeah. Interesting.
Very good. Well, since we're in the business of naming things, it's time for nitty-gritty nomenclature. Yeah, you knew this was coming. There's only one collective noun for frogs, and that's an army. And frogs are interesting, and there's lots of different kinds, so got to get a bit creative with this segment. But fortunately, nitty-gritty nomenclature comes in clutch. A clutch of frog eggs, to be precise. So, Joe, Lithobates Sylvaticus.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to be a little sneaky with this because it's pretty clear what kind of the theme for each word is, if you know a little bit of Latin. So let's see if you can get this one. Does Lithobates sylvaticus mean A, forest stone, B, rocky forest dweller, C, wooden boulder, or D, rock climber of the woods?
Give me the first two ones again.
Forest stone and rocky forest dweller.
I'm going to say rocky forest dweller.
Is that your final answer?
Yes.
You said that like Jasmine says that to Aladdin when he says, "Do you trust me?"
Yeah. Yes, final answer.
Incorrect. The answer was rock climber of the woods.
Okay. Yeah, I knew rock and forest, and that's all I could go on. So
yeah, I mean litho, like that's pretty obviously rock or stone, monolith, that kind of stuff. And then if you've played Magic, just Sylvan is all over the place. So and that means forest. So rock and forest I knew were in there. But yeah, rock climber. Lithobates actually means to tread upon rock or to climb rock.
Okay.
Sylvaticus just means of the forest, of or relating to forests.
Yeah, when we're going into this, I was thinking, yeah, I'm going to have an edge. I know some of these words.
I know some of these words.
Okay, would you like a description of this boy?
Mm-hmm. I sure would.
Wood frogs are small, brown frogs with khaki tan skin and a dark brown bandit mask that goes from their nose tip to the back of their upper mouth. And that's the sunglasses I was talking about.
Oh,
bandit masks on animals are like for style or for, like just kind of like the same reason a football player puts like the black marks under his eyes.
Yeah, I thought it was like I thought it linked in with the chill factor, but it's just the sunglasses are just chill.
Only in that he's cool.
Yeah, he is very cool. Sunglasses do make you cooler. Wear them at all times, including inside.
Some species or some specimen are extremely dark brown all over. They also have dark brown stripes on their legs. And their bellies are pale, sometimes yellow or green. So they're hiding a hidden little splash of color.
They're cowardice. They're yellow-bellied cowardice.
Yeah. But now that you can picture a frog, you can picture a tan frog. But how big is it? Is it like twice the size of a man? There's only one way to find out.
That would be fun. Can you imagine a frog being that big?
That would not be fun.
If you ever, there's a game called Mortal Shell, and you just turn a corner, and suddenly just there's like a cow-sized frog sitting there, and if you can play a guitar for it, and it'll love you for your music.
Oh, I thought frogs were more partial to banjo music, but
I mean, it's kind of like a lute. I guess guitar is wrong. It's old timey lute music, and he digs it for sure.
Welcome to the Love Measure Up segment, the official listener's favorite part of the show. The part of the show when we present the animal size and dimensions in relatable terms through a quiz that's fun for the whole family. It's also part of the show that's introduced by you. When you send an audio of yourself singing, or croaking the words measure up into ldtaxonomy@gmail.com. I changed it to croaking, but this particular frog, you could say it chitters.
Also, croaking means dying, so...
We don't have a new Measure Up intro this week.
Rats.
But Nora sent us the history of black red velvet cakes. And it's pretty interesting. Like, apparently there was a recipe that was lost to time. Like, this recipe that the cocoa just turned red when it reacted to the buttermilk. So then it was kind of re-emerged. And it wasn't a big hit until the movie Steel Magnolias made an armadillo-shaped cake, which she says, what does she say? It looks horrific. And I did, and it does. It looks horrible. It's like made to look like roadkill because it's like you cut into it and it's red. But then because of that movie, they were like, this is amazing. We love this. Red Velvet's the best. So then they started making it, and then this other guy, Ben Starr, reverse engineered it to find the original recipe. And there's an explanation she gives, but basically something with the acidity of the cocoa. He found a way to make it react, not react to the baking soda. Anyway, now our red velvet is we have more legitimate red velvet cake where the cocoa mixes and turns red.
I just cannot believe that it's just red chocolate. It's chocolate cake. It just looks red. Like there's so much of a difference in taste.
Well, she says a true red velvet cake, and then she says apparently it tastes like a banana cake but richer rather than tasting like a chocolate cake. So if you've had a red velvet cake baked by someone who's done their research, it's entirely possible that you loved it despite not loving chocolate cake. So even though it's cocoa, it tastes different.
So I just haven't had a bad red velvet cake yet.
Unless it's just colored chocolate cake.
Yeah, I wouldn't like that very much. I mean, it's still cake. It's not like I'm going to spit it out, but it's not wouldn't be that much of a fan. A roadkill armadillo cake. Love it. I remember when I
lost my mind.
We were prepping for Bibby's baby shower, and she told me that someone was bringing a diaper cake.
Good.
I was like, that's disgusting. I mean, it's going to look disgusting. It's probably going to taste pretty good. I was imagining like a big chocolate cake that was had like maybe some white frosting on top, and it looked like a diaper, and you cut into it and it's all brown in the inside. Like, oh, that's nasty, but I bet you it still tastes good. Turns out it's just a tiered cake that's made up of individually wrapped and rubber banded diapers, which was less tasty, believe me, but also a lot more useful.
So this is a thing.
Yeah. So what you do, I mean, it's just it looks like a tiered wedding cake.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah. So it took us quite a while to get through those because there were so many, and it was very, very helpful. So I'm glad it was what it was and not what I thought it was going to be.
Well, we're doing something a little bit different since we don't have a measure up intro. And I am going to give you... So in the movie 101 Dalmatians, there is the Twilight Bark, which is lighting the beacons of Gondor, but in dog form. Okay. Do you remember that part of the movie?
I've seen that movie probably all the way through once, a long time ago. It's just a dog barking, hearing, and then passing the message with more barking. So there's multiple dogs on this trail. The lighting the beacons analogy works much, much, much better for me.
So I'm going to play you a bark on the chain of the Twilight Bark, and you're going to tell me what dog is barking. Without further ado, the listener's favorite part of the show. Is that A, Scottish Terrier, B, an Afghan Hound, C, an English Sheepdog, or D, a Labrador Retriever? All dogs that are in the movie.
Hound, whichever one the hound was. Final answer. That's
Afghan Hound?
Yep.
Final answer. Okay, that is incorrect.
What?
It was a Scottish Terrier.
I've never heard a Scottish Terrier bay like that and howl.
Well, it was probably like Jim Cummings or something doing it. The Scottish Terrier goes, or the Afghan Hound goes right afterwards.
No, Jim Cummings just does all the recreations of the.
That one's the Afghan Hound, and it definitely sounds like a person doing it.
Yeah, wow. I've hung out with Scottish Terriers.
I thought you might be a little bit more familiar with the movie.
I am not. That and Lady of the Tramp, two dog-focused movies, even though I like dogs, they're just not very interesting to me as Disney movies.
Lady of the Tramp.
And I also never saw whatever the Cruella movie, which I don't think would have helped me either.
No.
In the rapidly expanding sympathize with the villain
Disney universe
genre of movies.
Okay, let's talk length. The wood frog is 51 to 70 millimeters, or 2.0 to 2.8 inches. How many frogs would it take to go into the length traveled by Anne Keene when she broke the record for the fastest crossing of Canada on foot by a woman?
So I just need to know what the distance is.
Yeah. So here's a hint. Keene ran from St. John's, Newfoundland to Tofino, British Columbia between April and September of 2002.
That's some Forrest Gump stuff right there.
Yeah. I was thinking that exact thing when I was reading this.
At one point we knew I needed to know what the distance was from sea to shining sea in the U.S., and that would help me a lot. But I don't remember what it was. Maybe it was 6,000 miles. Well, we'll go with that. 6,000 miles. Oh, now I got to do math. I forgot. There's a second part to this. I can't just guess.
How many wood frogs? How many 2.8 inches go into 6,000 miles? Or whatever you said.
135.7 million.
135.7 million.
That seems...
Final answer.
Yeah, 135.7 million.
That is incorrect. It's 110 million. 110.1.
That is... Okay, it's not a win, but
it's close.
It's within like 10%. That's
it's
good.
what my sister calls the worst kind of measure up. Where it's not far enough to be funny and not close enough to be a win.
And she's our only patron, so we really need to cater to the kind of content that she wants. So can I change my answer to 7? Or 110 that million.
It is. Let's talk weight.
Okay.
They're 0.28 ounces or 7.9 grams. How many wood frogs go into the amount of Ferrero Rocher, I think that's how you say that, pieces in grams that Leah Shutkever ate in 2 minutes and 1 second?
I feel like she could take 2 minutes and 1 second to eat one Ferrero Rocher candy, but I don't think that anyone would know about that.
Well, this hint would be helpful. So, Shutkever broke the record that was previously held by Canadian Peter Furious Pete Zerwinski in 2020.
Peter Furious Pete Zerwinski.
Yeah, Peter.
That person definitely is the owner of the Shrink Ray and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. That's Rick Moranis right there. If I can only think of Rick Moranis.
Wayne Zielinski is his name, right?
But Furious Pete. I love it.
Furious Pete is this jacked, like, competitive eater. Or I don't know if he's just like a record eater. But he's got like 4 or 5 records, but she just broke this one for him.
Wow, 2 minutes and 1 second. It's 121 seconds. This is a much better eating contest than the one we talked about last time. Not only because it didn't result in anyone's death, at least not directly, but also just this one sounds so much more pleasant. To win and to lose. 2 pounds. Oh, that's so much chocolate. So 114. If she was instead of eating Ferrero Rocher delicious chocolate, she was eating these ridiculous frogs. She would be able to eat 114 of them in 2.1 minutes, or 2 minutes and 1 second. There's no way this is right. 2 pounds is so much chocolate, but whatever. It's
final answer.
I think it's definitely record breaking. I think. Yes, that's my final answer. 114.
The correct answer is 23.7 frogs.
Oh my gosh.
she ate 15 Ferrero Rochers.
Oh man.
Totaling 887.5 grams or 0.4 pounds.
Oh,
nearly half a pound.
For 2 pounds, she would have had to Garfield that directly into her stomach.
Yeah, it's not 2 pounds might be possible, but not in 2 minutes.
No, and also you have to unwrap each one probably. Yeah, I didn't take into account the logistics of eating that. I was thinking more of just like this one big melted like pile of Ferrero Rocher that you could kind of shovel into your mouth, and I feel like 2 pounds would be feasible. You might die from it, but I don't know. All right, yeah, wow, that was way off.
When I saw that, it was just such a funny record. Ferrero Rocher, like such a specific thing to eat.
I know. Is there a Dove contest? Is there a Ghirardelli
or Reese's
contest? Is there? No, that's all that's all the fancy chocolate I know, and I even include Dove in there.
15 though, like doesn't seem that that seems like such an attainable record.
Yeah, I don't think it's like I can fit it in my. Why 2 minutes and 1 second? That's so like, why not?
It was the time.
Yeah, but like that's so 2 minutes and 1 second is more than 2 minutes. So then it's not how much she can eat in 2 minutes.
No. The record was the amount of time it took her.
Oh, I see. Gotcha.
So the standard is eating 15 pieces, but how fast can you do it?
So that's easy. Is eating 15 pieces. Interesting. That's one I could see myself going for. Of all the world records you've mentioned, that seems like the one that is the most attainable and most fun.
Yeah, it doesn't require you to like trek across a continent or eat a ton of like insects
or like build it or like hire 300 people to cook a noodle that's a mile long.
Yeah. But that's all I got for that. Would you like to hear some fast facts before we get into the major fact?
Or grow a 25-foot tall sunflower? Okay, I'm done.
Yeah. It takes skills you can attain.
Yeah, I can attain right here in the comfort of my home office.
Let's get into some fast facts. Mm-hmm. Wood frogs like to live in northern forests, but they can be as far south as Georgia, North Georgia. They especially like to live in freshwater wetlands and vernal wetland ponds, which are seasonally occurring bodies of water. They're diurnal, which means they're active during the day. And they tend to sleep through the night unless they're breeding. They mostly like to eat bugs and invertebrates that can be found on the forest floor. Tadpoles are omnivorous and eat algae and other tadpoles, including their own species. So
Rough.
Not cool, tadpole.
Oh, yes. Let's all get together and judge the juvenile species of this version of this frog.
They mate in the spring, and you can hear a chorus of chittering croaks during the mating season. And they do that at night. So they stay up late to during the mating season.
Makes sense.
They breed in these temporary seasonal ponds, which helps them avoid predation from fish and other animals that frequent permanent bodies of water. Smart.
Yeah, it does make sense.
But they like to hide in leaf litter, which is aided by their shades of brown coloration.
How many shades of brown?
That 3 at least. No.
It is mating season.
But that's all I got for that. Do you have any quick, big facts?
Quick, big facts. I guess we'll try to...
Jumped over the lazy dog.
What? Is that an acronym that I don't...
Yeah, the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. It's like a test sentence because it, especially for, I think, fonts, because it includes every letter of the alphabet.
Oh, it's a test sentence. I was like, for taking tests? Got it. Okay. All right. So this major fact, I have a placeholder name. It's just called Frozen Blood, but there's just nothing.
That sounds like a Andrei Sapkowski novel.
Sure.
He wrote The Witcher.
I know what you're talking about. Oh, is that he's the writer of The Witcher?
Blood of Hell's Sword of Destiny.
The Last Wish.
Frozen Blood.
Frozen Blood. That's probably not what he sounds like. Probably sounds much more Polish.
Yeah.
Whatever that sounds like. Anyway, so in case you haven't noticed, there is an issue with being cold-blooded, being a cold-blooded amphibian, and also living in Canada and Alaska. It gets cold. Real cold. Like super duper cold. Which is why that lady ran between April and September and not the other way around. Because that would have been rough business.
It's incentive to get done before it's cold.
Yeah, she was on a time limit for sure. There's no lollygagging because another week and she would have frozen. Which would have been bad for her, but not so bad for the wood frog. Because being cold-blooded in the cold under normal circumstances is a recipe for bad times because you're ectothermic, meaning that your body temperature is based on your environment or the temperature around you. This means that your body temperature will be pretty darn low during the winter. So you don't tend to see a lot of reptiles, amphibians, and the like living, north of the snow belt. They tend to favor more tropical climates where they can stay warm or become warm if they need to. Not really the case up north. But this, being endothermic and ectothermic, endo being you regulate your own body temperature on the inside, ecto, like I said, it's based on your environment. Each of these things come with a trade-off. Mammals and birds are warm-blooded. And so we regulate our own body temperature. Then we don't let the environment tell us what to do. So being hot or cold in the environment isn't necessarily super bad and doesn't change our body temperature all that much. It can, but only in the extremes. The downside is that warm-blooded beasts are very limited in the temperature ranges that their bodies can be in order to survive. So if, mammals and birds, if their bodies get too hot or cold, usually there's like a 10 to 15 degree range for mammals and birds before like serious complications arise. Like we're 98.6 is our is the internal body temperature for humans. Go 10 degrees in either direction and you're gonna probably die. Or you're at least gonna be in dire straits. particularly you might survive 108 fever, but you're probably not going to survive having an internal body temperature of 88. So there's a very limited range that we can survive. On the other hand, ectotherms can survive a much larger range of body temperatures. So if their body temperature can go, quite a bit down and they'll still be fine, or quite a bit up. But the trade-off, obviously, is that they need to manage their body temperature by finding ways to stay warm or to cool off, depending on what's needed. So, and additionally, ectotherms can also speed up or slow down their metabolisms based on the temperature. That also helps them regulate it as well. But the wood frog has a different method for surviving through the freezing winters of the Great White North. Their blood and also the water in their body actually freezes. They just freeze up. And that doesn't mean they just stop moving. It means they actually become a frozen frogsicle. The way that their blood freezes without killing them is a matter of no small amount of chemistry. So we'll take a bird's eye view for this, particularly a bird looking for frogsicles. So the frog generates urea in its tissues the closer that winter approaches. And
the prophet?
What?
The prophet Uriah?
Yeah. I'm sure the people were calling him Urea and snickering behind his back, and then he just summoned bears on them, what is it? Elisha does that. But anyway, this is Urea, and it's if it sounds like urine, that's because that's where it is in mammals. It's a tiny crystalline solid that's found in mammals' urine. But in the wood frog, it interacts with glucose generated by the liver, and these two substances work to limit the amount of ice or the number of ice crystals that form in the tissues and blood as the frog freezes. And so the way it does is glucose helps keep water inside cells when it gets cold. In mammals, when the water in your blood turns to ice, this ends up drawing water out of the cells and into on the outside of the membrane, and this dehydrates the cells, and the cells die, and that's called frostbite. Irreversible cell death due to dehydration in cold temperatures. But with glucose, with a lot of glucose in the cells, it keeps the water in place even when the blood freezes. So the cells don't get dehydrated, they don't shrink. And so with these systems in place, the wood frogs can survive and thaw back out as long as less than 65% of their body water freezes. So if they go over 65%, they have a much higher chance of not thawing or thawing back out and not being alive when that happens. In this state, they can stay frozen for over 7 months, which is good because winter is forever in the Yukon. As anyone that lives up there can tell you, it just seems to last an eternity. But the frogs don't care because they are unconscious and frozen the whole time. And they can survive temperatures hovering around 0 degrees Fahrenheit or whatever degrees Celsius that means. That's probably good to know. I should probably know what the Celsius is because we're talking about Canada here, and I think they care about centigrade. It's less than 0 degrees Celsius, I'll tell you that. So during this time, the frog's heart stops. Their blood obviously doesn't flow, so their heart doesn't need to pump. And they basically function as little frozen frogsicles until they thaw and hop away like everything's normal in the spring. And I don't know if you've, again, this is the second time I'll reference Avatar. But there's an episode where he needs to find frogs for his friends to suck on because they're sick, and some like medicine lady tells Aang that he needs to find these frogs and give them to him so they'll get better. And he pulls these frogs out of this bog, and they're frozen. And if they thaw out, then they become useless. So he's kind of racing against the clock to get these frogs to his friends before they thaw. And so this is exactly what I was thinking of. Maybe they were exactly these frogs, it's very odd that they're just normal frogs, because almost every animal in that show is like a hybrid animal, like a platypus bear or a chicken pig or.
I thought you were going to reference the fact that Aang was frozen in the first episode.
Well, I did. That's why I called him the frog in the iceberg. Aang is the boy in the iceberg, which is the name of the first episode of that show. I was going to do something with like Walt Disney's favorite superhero or something like that. Like he would, but I don't know. Walt Disney's frozen and he's dead because you can't. This is a problem with being frozen as a mammal or as an animal that doesn't generate this level of urea and glucose to keep the cells from dehydrating, is that your ice crystals form, they draw water out of the cells become dehydrated, and you have irreversible cell death across your entire body when your blood freezes, or the water in your body freezes as well. So this is why we currently do not have a way to freeze someone, a mammal, a human being, and have them stay in cryostasis for 1,000 years, like Ribbit J. Fry.
Yeah,
but we'll figure it out. Maybe by studying the wood frog a bunch, or maybe by injecting a bunch of glucose into someone, or maybe just by having them eat a bunch of cookies with sugar.
You can pay to have yourself flash frozen for a lot of money, though. Yeah,
I mean, that's an expensive suicide, I guess.
No, I think it's like, yeah, that's a good point.
I'm not sure if everyone just immediately dies, but as far as I know right now, you can't do it.
I think it's probably at the moment of your death. Once you're dead, they do this. And the hope is, like, in the future, technology will be able to regenerate even that.
That makes sense. It's like, you have like this, cancer's taken over, freeze you. I mean, I guess it's like, it can also be a Hail Mary. Like, just before you die, you just do this because it's, death is coming anyway. And this at least gives you the potential to be unfrozen and healed sometime in the future. I can see the appeal. Because it's... death is inevitable. I mean, it is inevitable. This got dark. But yeah, that's the wood frog. It has figured out the secret to cryostasis, which is the only way that we'll ever get to visit another galaxy.
Very true.
And that's all I got.
That's all I got.
So, that was the wood frog. For you out there in Podcastia, stick around for winter. Don't let ice crystals form in your blood. And by all means, keep your cells full of water, like the wood frog here in Life, Death, and Taxonomy.
Hey Taxonomy Titans, I just want to remind you that we now have a Patreon. Patrons can see full video episodes and get shoutouts on the show. But ultimately, it's a way for you to help us cover some costs and get even better. Still, reviews are the best way to help us grow. So if you haven't left one yet, we'd really love to hear from you. As always, thanks for listening and engaging.
Life, Death, and Taxonomy is my favorite in the world podcast.
Uriah was a priest in the book of Isaiah. That serves as a witness to the prophecy about Assyria invading, and then the Christmas one. After that happens, the prophecy about Christmas. For unto us a child is born.